What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers are targeting Nick Richards per reports. Nick Richards from the Charlotte Hornets makes a ton of sense. Gives you a real 7-footer, block shots, rebound, be a floor running big man, can be a lob threat, right? And he's incredibly cheap, right? Doesn't cost us a ton, isn't going to break the bank as far as salary-wise goes. Also, asset-wise, probably not giving up a first for Nick Richards. Couple seconds, something in that regard. Question is, how available is Nick Richards actually? Seen teams like the Knicks even acquire about Nick Richards, Lakers obviously acquiring about Nick Richards, and ideally, him in a backup role, him slotted alongside Anthony Davis at times. Anthony Davis gets the night off. Nick Richards is a guy that will get you a double-double plus and just kind of keep the rim protection, which has been an issue when Anthony Davis doesn't play. We've seen games like Houston last year where they just basically had a layup line the entire game. It's something that we really need. Just a big, physical, sizable forward or center that you can play with Anthony Davis and to back him up. But again, the question is, how available is Nick Richards? We don't really have word whether he's available or not. Yes, the Charlotte Hornets have listened, but listening doesn't always mean that, hey, we're going to trade him. You're always going to listen because, the Lakers like, we'll give you both first for Nick Richards. Then, yeah, it's a no-brainer. You do that all day. However, Charlotte Hornets are in a very interesting position because they have 16 full roster spots, right? So, which means they have to get rid of at least one of those roster spots. Now, of course, they can just waive a guy or, unload a guy, or there's ways to go around. It's not something that's like, ooh, that means that Charlotte has to just give us Nick Richards or anything. Nothing like that. It's no extreme, but it is something that is very interesting two ways. One, again, Charlotte's going to have to meet that requirement at some point. And two, Lakers making a trade for Nick Richards, they can't really do a 2-for-1 swap or do even a 1-for-1 swap because the Charlotte Hornets still need to get rid of a guy. Now, could they still do like a Nick Richards for, Maxwell Lewis and Jalen Hood-Schifino and then figure it out, right? Just two names, for example, to kind of get to the salary. Right, I'm sure it'll be something probably closer to like Cam Reddish and like a Jalen Hood-Schifino or Cam Reddish and a Maxwell Lewis or something, right? But you can see why it could get a little complicated and maybe even why the deal hasn't been done yet. Now, we don't know how far the conversations have gone. We don't know where the conversations are heading. All we know is the Lakers have been interested in Nick Richards and have tried to work something out. But that could be why the deal hasn't been done or they haven't worked out, because they probably need a third team. Probably going to take a third team to come in that is willing to take on one of the Lakers' contracts, if not both, but that also costs an asset. So do the Lakers look at this as an opportunity, right? Because Quincy Olivari, for example, right? A lot of Laker fans really want him on board. He would be great, especially if you can free up a roster spot or two. And the idea is like, hey, if we can turn, two guys into Nick Richards and then bring in, say, a Quincy Olivari, perfect, right? Now he's on the roster. Now we're good. We can work out other trades as we move closer to the trade deadline. But gives us that need right now, kind of solves an issue right now, takes some pressure off of us pulling off some trade. We don't have to now go, oh, well, now we got to rush and we got to do this or we got to do that, right? But Charlotte, they don't want 2, 3, 4 guys to unload. So do you find that third team, try to find that third team that's willing to take on a couple pieces, which you'd have to meet whatever Charlotte is willing to relinquish Nick Richards for, but you'd also have to pay up for a team that is willing to take on some salary and some players, probably for a second, maybe 2 seconds, right? Great example, San Antonio Spurs just did it for the Sacramento Kings for Jalen McDaniels, right? Maybe the Lakers can find something similar. Maybe it'll even be the San Antonio Spurs. Your most likely bet is you find a team that likes a Maxwell Lewis or likes a Jalen Hood-Schifino and goes like, hey, we can get them for essentially free, right? We don't have to actually trade and give up assets or anything like that. right? So like, yeah, Maxwell Lewis doesn't really look ready yet, but he might be a nice player, might be a nice piece, and we're getting him for nothing. So might as well take a chance, might as well take a flyer on him. That's a possibility. But do those teams want a Maxwell Lewis, and we also want you to give us a second, right? So that's where I think the patience comes in. That's why I think the Lakers are probably having time or taking time to try to find that right team, because you don't want to have to unload a young guy that you like, that you're growing and developing, and then also give up an asset in the process, right? Like the Jalen McDaniels thing, that was just part of like a salary, like Sacramento, they don't really care, and supposedly they're working on a bigger move. They're working on trying to go get a Brandon Ingram. Supposedly Zach LaVine is on that list as well, which I don't even know how they would get to Zach LaVine, right? Because unless they're trading like Sabonis or something for that, right? Even if they trade Keegan Murray, which I don't see them doing for Zach LaVine, Keegan Murray only makes $8 million, and then you throw in a Trey Lyles, that's another $8 million, and then even if they were to throw in Herter, that's $16 million. Like, you're only at like $32 million. So I don't really know how they quite get there. But maybe like a Brandon Ingram, you're seeing them potentially pulling off a big move. Point is that there's an intent there. Where the Lakers, yes, you'd be getting Nick Richards, but how much does it cost, right? If you have to give up 3 or 4 seconds to get Nick Richards, and then a team wants, hey, we'll take Jalen Hood-Schifino from you, gladly take him, but we also want 2 seconds or a second, and you're out all your seconds in the Nick Richards trade. Like, now what do? Are you really giving up a pick swap and all these seconds for that? If that's the case, then we don't want you to just take Jalen Hood-Schifino. We want you to take Jalen Hood-Schifino. We want you to take, Cam Reddish. We need you to take 2 or 3 guys so we can free up some roster spots, free up some cap space, go bring in a guy like, like Quincy Olivari, for example. Maybe you're bringing in a Jordan Goodwin because you're looking for a trade to maybe unload Gabe Vincent and D'Lo at some point right later on down the line, right? Like, that is what the Lakers really need to take the time to find. Because with Charlotte already in the position to where they need to unload a piece, they need to unload a player, I don't see them going, okay, we'll take 2 or 3 guys from you, and now we have to waive 14 guys. And guys that the Lakers have are all on guaranteed deals, right? So that means they're going to have to pay for that. So I don't see them being like, no, hey, we'll just take a bunch of contracts. Now we have to unload all these guaranteed guys that we don't really want, we don't really need. Yeah, sure, maybe we like the idea of Jalen Hood-Schifino or a Maxwell Lewis or something, and, we can develop him under our team banner, but also we have to unload and get rid of these other guys. I think more likely than not, if the Lakers are to acquire Nick Richards, it'll either be a 3-team deal or it'll be the first trade that leads, right? So like, it'll be something where the Lakers kind of free up space and maybe do some finagling and maybe get a piece that Charlotte likes, right? Like, maybe they get another $5 million contract or something, and they're like, here, we'll just do a 1-for-1 swap, and then you can unload one of your other guys, right? Like, kind of figure out a way to do separate deals. But I think ultimately, when everything kind of, the dust settles with this, probably be a 3-team deal, which if you're the Lakers, if you're going to do that, you might as well try to find that team that's willing to really like work with you to kind of be able to retool some of your pieces, right? And unload some guys and maybe free a little bit of salary space. If you can free, 2 or 3 million in the trade, that'd be huge, right? Like Charlotte, if they take on, say, one guy, like a 1-for-1 guy, and then you get a team like, say, San Antonio, just using them as an example, right? Say San Antonio's like, hey, we'll take these 2 guys. Then cool. If like Charlotte's like, hey, we don't really care about like Jalen Hood-Schifino or anything like that. We just want the picks, right? Maybe the Spurs are like, hey, you know what? We'll take a flyer on a Maxwell Lewis, take a flyer on a Jalen Hood-Schifino. Like, give us that. Right, you want us to take on an extra $5 million or whatever, $3 million, let's say $3 million. Want us to take on an extra $3 million? Sure, we'll do that. But, we want 2 seconds, so then maybe you work it out. Thing is that 3 teams become complicated, right? Because you have to fulfill the need that Charlotte has for Nick Richards, again, assuming he's available, And then you have to fulfill whatever that team that's willing to take on the contracts wants and needs. So is Charlotte willing to kind of relinquish their asking price? Are they willing to kind of go down a little bit? Like, let's say they want 4 seconds for Nick Richards. Are they willing to take 3? And then a team, because it's like, hey, we got to have, again, just use an example, say San Antonio. San Antonio's willing to take Maxwell Lewis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, but they want 2 seconds too, or they want a second as well to help be the middleman in this deal, right? They take on a couple young guys, boom, they get a second round pick. Nick Richards goes for 3 seconds. Really, it was 4 and like 2 young guys, but you cleared off some roster spots, you cleared off some salary, right? You don't have to necessarily fill that spot right away, but you could look at it, maybe you're even throwing in Cam Reddish, something, maybe a team like Charlotte's like, no, hey, we got enough young guys. Let's bring in a Cam Reddish. We could use some size out on the wing. Kind of work it out, right, is the idea. But more likely than not, it's probably going to be a 3-team deal. But as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think, hey, it doesn't matter, whatever you have to do, whatever kind of finagling you got to put together to pull it off, make it happen, get it done. Again, when you're talking about 3 teams, usually take a little bit longer. It's usually a little more challenging because all sides got to kind of feel like they won, right? I know some people look at it as like, well, the middle team is getting nothing or is getting something for nothing just for being the middle team. Yeah, but usually there's a cost still in that, right? So it's finding that right middle team. It's finding that team that's willing to take on guys. A lot of guys have to waive guys anyway, right? So again, it's not something that I'm saying Charlotte is desperate for. It's not something that I'm saying Charlotte's going to have to unload guys, right? Or maybe the Lakers have to take on multiple guys, right? Like, maybe you're doing a Gabe Vincent for 2 or 3 guys, right? Like, I don't even know if Seth is available, if can be traded yet, because he signed a new contract this year. But, just using him as a name that comes to mind that's on Charlotte. Say it's like a Seth and, Nick Richards for, something, right? Then maybe you can pull something like that off. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.